We choose relationships that we subconsciously think will mend our deepest wounds. But what we actually do is attract the partner that will mirror those wounds to us so we can become aware and heal them on our own. Now, that's not to say that you can't heal with your partner, because, like I said, as partners, we can either help each other on the healing journey or we can really hurt each other, right? We can really pick at each other's wounds. We can really poke at, what do you need to be protected? Or why are you so anxious? Or why are you so needy? Or why do you push me away? We can really hurt each other by calling out the wounding versus showing it a little compassion and a little love and giving it some awareness. So, the first reason why relationships and marriage are so hard is because relationships are mirrors. Mirror for us where we need to grow, where we need to heal. Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod. Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod, where we normalize normal and find freedom through a life unperfected. Welcome back, Mama. Brooke Jean here. I am so glad you're here. This week's podcast is something that, gosh, I already feel like a tingling in the back of my neck and like goosies coming up my arms because it's just so like present and relevant for me right now. But we are talking about relationships. We are talking about intimate relationships. We are talking about marriage. And we are talking specifically about why the heck is marriage so hard, particularly in this season in our lives as those high achieving, high performing, often anxious, on the recovery journey of some kind, usually anxiety and perfectionism, working moms, where we're trying to build businesses or grow our careers while raising families. And also, we're in this like long term relationship or not. This is for the peeps that are in relationships. And if you're not in one, we are not trying to scare you off. We are just trying to normalize freaking normal, which is right now, marriage can feel really hard. So, what I want to talk a little bit about today are, what do I have? 4 reasons why the struggle is so real with long term partnership and marriage, particularly at this stage and season of life. And then one tangible thing that you can do right now that may help, that may serve you in your interpersonal relationship or relationships. Let me tell you a little bit about my relationship. I have been married for 10 years, maybe it's 11. And I have been with my partner, Tony, for this November will actually be 20 freaking years. I can't even believe that. When I think about having been with somebody for 20 years, I'm like, I must be like 90 years old then, because how the heck have I been with somebody for 20 years? That the truth is, I met Tony when Camden was just under 1 year old. We were both working at Target. We were both managers at the same Target store. It's serendipitous how we met because I went to college in Boulder, and my first assignment right out of college was in Longmont, Colorado, which is just northeast of Boulder. Like it's literally probably 20 or 30 minutes away. And I had never even heard of Longmont. Like I didn't even know Longmont was a thing, bless its heart. And Tony, my partner, moved, just decided. He's from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He just decided with a bestie, we are going to get out of this small town. We've been to Colorado. We love it there. We love the mountains. We want to have more access, bigger city, things like that. And so both of us ended up in Longmont, which is just totally, if you're from Colorado, like 20 years ago, Longmont, you would understand that's a little bit random. So, anyways, we met and Camden was 10 months and I had just graduated college and I was like this single young mom who's the HR and trying to grow my career. And we became besties really quick. And we also mirrored each other's schedules. So we were like like every time you would run the building, you had a another leader on duty with you. So like we would have the same closing night, we would have the same day off, we would have the same weekend rotation. And as the opening and closing and weekend rotation managers, we became really good friends and we became really close. And then we started going out to Old Chicago for those big ass 32-ounce fat tires after work and eating mozzarella sticks and getting to know each other. But when we met, I was actually still pretty heartbroken over my son's father, who we never really had a solid and strong relationship, but I was always hoping that it was going to be more than what it was. And he cheated on me while I was pregnant, and I caught him in bed with that other woman while pregnant, not once, but twice, and kind of knew at that point during my pregnancy, oh shit, I cannot be with this person. I'm not going to try to make it work. I am not going to raise a son who's watching his mother chase a man who doesn't show up for her, because y'all know that when we're in a relationship where we don't feel wanted and loved and we're chasing them, it brings out a side in us that is not even who we really are. And I did not want my son to see his mother that way, his father that way, or relationship in that way. So when I met Tony, I was actually still really heartbroken and just had a lot personally going on. But our friendship just grew and grew and developed and developed. And then one night we were in my apartment in Denver and we were drinking beers and confessed for each other our feelings. And oh my God, this is like so embarrassing, you guys. But I had a lot to drink that night and I ended up trying to play the guitar and sing for him at 3 in the morning. So if you've ever seen the movie Forrest Gump, when she's like singing naked on the bar stool, like I literally pulled that number with Tony 20 years ago. And we had this like ridiculous, messy, sloppy kiss because we'd been drinking and we professed our love and we went to bed. And the next, and keep in mind, oh my God, that was my first ever place that I could afford on my own. So it was a 1 bedroom apartment in a shitty part of Denver. And my son had the 1 bedroom. So my bed was in the living room. And I had a wall that was made of picture frames that was trying to like section out my bedroom. So here Tony's traveling from Longmont to come down to Denver to see this mom who has this 1 bedroom apartment. My bed is in the living room. We stay up till 4 in the morning. I'm playing the guitar and singing. Like, what in the actual F is happening? We kiss, it's sloppy. The next morning, I remember waking up. What did I do last night? And Tony looked at me, and he would quote this too. He looked at me and he said, I think we're going to be together for a really long time. And I thought to myself, bitch, you've got to be kidding me. Like, there's absolutely no way that I'm thinking that in this particular moment. And you're thinking that? I'm humiliated over here. I'm like ready to get up with my tail between my legs. Did I actually try to sing and play guitar for you? Did we actually drink that much? Did we actually profess our love? What are we going to do? We work together. Like, my mind was not in the this is the man vibe, but his was. And he was absolutely right because that was 20 years ago. And so while we were establishing our relationship, it started hard because, like I said, I was heartbroken. I came with all this baggage. And then we were raising Camden and we had to share Camden with his dad because his dad has always been 50-50 and heavily involved in Camden's life. And so even though that whole thing, the like co-parenting and the drama that brought in the early years, it does get better. So for those of you that are going through a separation or a divorce or a co-parenting, it was really ugly. I would say the first 2 or 3 years, things began to calm down. Then they started getting good. Then we were starting to get everyone together and go trick or treating every single Halloween. Like it got better and better and better. And then it started getting weird again. But it does get easier over time. And so we had our challenges in our relationship back in the day. However, my son would go to his dad's. And so Tony and I always had date night. Like once a week, we were child free and we could go on a date. And I remember there were years where like we would pick a new restaurant that was trendy that we hadn't been to in Denver. And we would go and we would eat good food and do the whole thing. And it wasn't like, so we waited 8 years to get married, Tony and I. Then we got married in 2012. And then how many years after that did we have Chloe? I'm not going to do the math because it's 5 p.m. and I'm dead tired. But years later, we then have Chloe. So now we're much older. Now we're raising a Bubba Ganouskis together, and she's always with us because none of our grandparents are close enough to help. We didn't have like nannies and babysitters and all that good stuff in the beginning, and we were together. So Miss Chloe wasn't going to her dad's every other weekend for us to have a date night. And so that's when I feel like, combined with me getting postpartum depression and anxiety and having a girl, which triggered the living shit out of me having a little girl, it also really triggered my partner. We'll get into it. We'll get into those triggers and how they impact the relationship. But it wasn't until all this started folding in that things started getting really hard in the relationship. And so we'd always had our struggles. There was certainly missed opportunities for us to build in a really mature and securely attached way because when I met him, I was super unhealthy and like we built, I don't know, we were so young. I don't really know how else to describe it. And so we had our struggles, but they were really like magnetized or like under the microscope once we had Chloe and we had a full time baby and postpartum depression and anxiety and then triggers and all these things. And so marriage has been hard since we've had Chloe. It's always been hard, but it's been harder since we had Chloe. And there's as I've gotten more and more curious about that. Okay, what are we struggling with? Why are we struggling? What is going to help us? What's getting in the way of connecting? What's chipping away at our intimacy or at our connection? I've been embarking on this journey of just trying to empower myself to understand myself and myself in relationships. And now I do not have it all figured out. Let me just tell you that your girl is not the marriage and family specialist. She does not have a perfect marriage and a perfect relationship, but I'm doing the work. I'm invested in the work. I've learned a lot along the way. And I want to share with you some things that are helping me, my relationship, and my clients in their relationships. Because what's really super interesting is a lot of the times the things that I'm working on in my life are showing up in my clients' lives too, because that's how energy works. So, the first thing I want to do is just normalize that marriage can be really hard. And it's not to say that marriage isn't so beautiful. I value the heck out of marriage. I value the heck out of my partner and our relationship. And I can get emotional and super sentimental about us having been together for 20 years and what we've been through. And we've raised Camden and now we have Chloe and we have a beautiful life and a beautiful home and like an actual partnership. Like we do life really well together. Do you know what I mean? Like we co-parent really well, we share responsibilities really well. Like my husband is a very involved daddy. There isn't one thing that, mama does that he doesn't do. He's very emotionally attuned to our daughter. He's very close with my son. That's like his son too. So there's a lot of things that I really cherish and that I really value and that I think we've done really right. And it's freaking hard. So we need a safe place like we always do on this podcast. We speak the truth about things. Why? Not because we're complaining, not because we're bashing on it, not because any of that, but because when we face the hard thing, when we face it, then we have an opportunity to work through it. And when we face it and work through it, we grow. And then our relationships get richer. So, we're going to normalize that marriage is hard and we're going to talk about some of the reasons from just like a psychological standpoint why that is, and then I'm going to give you guys something you can do. So, the first reason why marriage is freaking hard is because interpersonal relationships, especially all relationships, but particularly interpersonal close relationships like your partner are going to be a mirror for you. And what that means is they're going to show up to mirror for you the parts of you that are ready to heal and that need the most growth. So your partner is going to show you where your weak spots are. Your partner is going to show you where your healing needs to be, where your wound is. And so think about how difficult that can be when your partner is showing up to show you that you need to grow in your ability to trust, or you need to grow in your ability to communicate, or you need to grow in your ability to not like self sabotage or run away from things, or you need to grow in your ability to calm yourself and work on this anxiety, or you need to grow in ways of taking risks, or you need to grow in ways of letting people frickin' in. Whatever the thing is that you really need for your soul and your human to grow and evolve, your partner is going to mirror for you. So, ouch, ouch. And so, while that's happening, this is where it gets even deeper from a psychological standpoint. You and I and every other human, we pick our partners subconsciously because we think they're actually going to heal that deep inner wound. Not that they're going to mirror it for us so we can heal ourselves. We seek them to make the pain go away. We seek them to right the wrongs. We seek them to patch the holes. But they're not here to do that. They're here to mirror for us that the hole exists so we can do the work to heal ourselves. I hope this is making sense. If I have this wound that a masculine person hurt me and my masculine father didn't protect me, then I am subconsciously pulling in a partner thinking he's going to protect me. But what really he's going to do is mirror for me my wound around that so I can heal it myself and learn to know that I'm always protected and held and that I can do that on my own. Or if you are anxious and you're drawing in a partner to calm you, to calm your nervous system, to make your anxiety go away, your partner is just going to mirror, AKA trigger your anxiety so you can grow in your awareness around it so you can work on it. So it's almost like they're going to do the opposite of what you were subconsciously hoping they would do. So that in and of itself is why it's so hard to be in relationship, because you have to be strong enough to face the mirror, to handle what the mirror shows you, to not just blame, 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 because that's the easy go to is to blame your partner for your deeper wounds and to blame them for not fixing your deeper wounds. And then you have to have this awareness of, wow, I have this wound and my partner is mirroring it for me. And it's not their responsibility. They can help it. They can also hurt it, but it's not their responsibility. It's mine. So why am I looking for a man to protect me? Or why am I looking for a man to calm me? Or why am I looking for a man to save me? Or why am I looking for a man to be obsessed with me? Whatever it is, everybody has their own thing, their own hurt that they're trying to make whole through relationship. Okay. So I think we just have to like pause for a moment and digest this. What am I hoping that my partner is going to do that I'm continually disappointed in? And what of that is mine to hold and to work through? And I think one of the clues that you can follow is your disappointments. So, where is your partner disappointing you? And where does the expectation come from that you have on your partner? And is it a fair expectation? Is it something that we've actually agreed upon and we both value in relationship or that we've communicated? Or is it you trying to heal an inner wound? And it's not like you're now projecting that onto your partner to heal for you. So follow your disappointments. So we choose relationships that we subconsciously think will mend our deepest wounds. But what we actually do is attract the partner that will mirror those wounds to us so we can become aware and heal them on our own. Now, that's not to say that you can't heal with your partner, because, like I said, as partners, we can either help each other on the healing journey or we can really hurt each other, right? We can really pick at each other's wounds. We can really poke at, what do you need to be protected? Or why are you so anxious? Or why are you so needy? Or why do you push me away? We can really hurt each other by calling out the wounding versus showing it a little compassion and a little love, and giving it some awareness. So, the first reason why relationships and marriage are so hard is because relationships are mirrors. Mirror for us where we need to grow, where we need to heal. And then number 2, it's because we actually chose that partner thinking that they're going to make the pain go away, not that they're going to mirror it for us. You see the difference there? Somebody just making my hurt go away about not being protected versus mirroring for me that I need to heal that hole. Oof. Talk about a disappointment. Talk about a letdown. What do you mean I have to heal that on my own? That's terrible. It's okay. It's really not, but that's how it can feel, right? It can feel really scary. It can feel really big. It could even feel overwhelming. All those things are normal and natural, but we can heal these things and our partners can help us. The third reason why marriage is so damn hard is because the relationship is a living, breathing entity that needs life breathed into it, that needs nurturing and nourishment in order for it to succeed, in order for it to thrive, in order for it to even make it through the weathering and the storms that is life and family and work and responsibilities. And while the marriage itself is its own energetic entity, it's living, breathing organism, so are you, so is your partner, and so is the relationship. And so it's important that, like, you're growing as a person and so is your partner, and that you're somewhat growing together, and that you're both pouring into the relationship. The relationship also needs attention. If the relationship is a living, breathing organism that needs nurturing and nourishment in order for it to thrive or even just sustain, that takes time, energy, and effort. And when you are in what some would call the dog days of parenting, or when you are in the creating of your career, or the growth of your family and growth of your career, or whatever big life transitions are happening for you, which there seems to be so many happening right now, and at this stage of life, a lot of times it can feel like, who the heck has energy for that? Who has energy for that? So when you and your partner are juggling your jobs, juggling school, juggling sports, juggling extracurriculars, juggling homework, juggling paying bills, juggling going on trips, juggling self care, juggling the neighborhood parties, you're juggling all this shit, trying to keep all the balls afloat. And you're now supposed to, like, feed in and fuel your relationship. And so what happens is, all too often, the relationship is the first damn thing to go. It's like, raise your hand if you're with me that you're like, giving your husband affection is literally way low on the totem pole of your to-do list and of the people, places, and things that are waiting on a response from you. Or my partner and I, we want to, like, connect after Chloe finally gets to sleep, but this queen stays up till 9, sometimes even 9:15, and it doesn't matter how early she gets up, how active she is. We've tried all the things. The girl just stays up a little later. That is just who she is. So by the time we come to bed at 9:15 or 9:30, you think at that point we have the energy to have a deep conversation, to have a romantic moment? We're like, fuck. I'm like, I can't even talk anymore. I can't even hear myself talk anymore, let alone hear you talk. So it's like, you have the best of intentions. And so then you get lazy because you're tired and you're like, let's just watch a fucking show, or let's just literally turn our backs to each other and look at our phones and fart on each other all night. Seriously. The point is that the relationship needs watering, it needs nourishment. And who the heck has the energy to do that? This is something that I've been playing with lately. While it's true, it doesn't feel like there's the time and energy and sanity to do what I need to do to sustain a super tight relationship. What's also true is that I have not made it my top priority, and I will be the first to admit. And again, it's not because I don't love my partner. It's not because he doesn't deserve the best of me. It's not because I don't want to model healthy love for my daughter. It's just quite literally, there's a lot of things that are demanded of us. And by the end of the day, I know my partner's still there. I'm grateful he's still there. He knows I'm still there. And we're just hanging on by a fucking thread sometimes. However, I'm realizing that I have poured a lot of energy and effort into my healing journey, into my wellness, into my business, into the business growth, into my career, into my clients, into my children. And I have deprived my marriage. And while it's important that I acknowledge that and take responsibility and see my part in that, I'm also not going to shame the shit out of myself for it either, because I think a lot of us fall into this trap, and it's not because we have poor intentions. But what I am going to do is I'm going to declare that my relationship does matter. Our kids are healthy. The business is thriving. Things are going great. I'm going to prioritize my marriage now. That same energy that I put into learning more and to help me become the best therapist and coach and trainer and teacher and mentor, all the podcasts that I listen to, all the books that I read, all the articles that I read, all of the conversations that I have. If I could throw just 25% of that toward my relationship, that would make a huge difference. So I'm going to do that. I'm going, instead of saying I don't have the time and the energy, instead, I'm going to say I haven't made the time or energy. And I'm not going to blame and shame myself. I'm also not going to blame and shame my partner. We've fallen into a trap. It's lasted a long ass time. And here we are. I'm craving intimacy. I'm craving passion. I'm craving something different and deeper, but I want it with my partner. I don't want to abandon the relationship. I don't want somebody new. I want it here. So if I want something different in the marriage, I have to start with me. I have to be and bring different energy into the marriage. And how I can do that is by having the awareness that I'm talking about right now in terms of where I haven't invested and actually start to show up different and prioritize it and educate myself and bring these conversations to the marriage and talk about it, and then bring the things that I'm learning about from the books that I'm reading and the podcast, bring it into the relationship and be like, hey, let's talk about attachment styles. Hey, let's talk about our inner child wounding and how we can either help each other or hurt each other. Hey, let's talk about this thing that's happening in the relationship where I'm like pulling away and you're pulling away, but we both miss each other. All of that. But number 3 is really just the relationship takes work, it takes energy and care, and that is we're not like swimming in an abundance of energy every day, and so we have to prioritize it. And we also have to have a realistic expectation. So even with myself prioritizing the relationship doesn't mean I'm going to be like over the top lovey-dovey 24/7 and we're going to have these exciting date nights every single week and we're going to have amazing sex. Like I don't expect that. I just expect that if I show up different and I bring more love and more care and more warmth and more energy and more passion to the relationship, that's going to have a ripple effect and it's going to get a different result. It's going to spark some new and exciting conversations. It's going to create more emotional responsivity and I'm responsivity. That's not a word. Responsiveness. It's going to open us up. It's going to create more intimacy. And all of that is really positive. But I'm going to do it with realistic expectations, right? Because I think that's important too. Like we are still busy and not every night is going to be this passionate romantic evening because sometimes we really just want to go to sleep. But what we can do is make better use of like our morning or how we're checking in with each other throughout the day and making sure that in those little pockets that we're actually connecting with our partner in the way that they feel connected to. So, like, my partner will reach out to me throughout the whole day and he asks me questions like, how's your day? And they're all logistical. And while there's effort there, talking about the logistics of my day is like intimacy. Like, I was going to say something, but it's totally inappropriate, but it's like a buzzkill. It's a buzzkill. So here's my partner. He's making the effort. He's trying to check in with me. He's trying to see about my day. He's showing me he's thinking about me. He's showing me he care. But because he's coming with logistical questions, immediately I'm like, ew. So if he's going to give that investment, he's got to lead with my love language. He's got to ask different questions, or don't ask a question. Come home with something that showed me that you were thinking about me. Or for me, my love language is quality time. So I would rather you not reach out to me all day long and plan a date night. Those are the kind of things. But my husband likes when I check in on him like that. My husband likes when he feels like there's space in our relationship to partner on the logistics. That makes him feel like we're partners. So while I want to check in and be like, what was your trigger today? And what's the tea with your ETL that's going through your peer that's going through this thing? Like, I want to just jump into the deep, dark depths of his soul. That's not landing on him. He's thinking, babe, no, dude, we don't have. I'm literally on the sales floor working my ass off. I can't dive into my triggers. So if I'm going to invest the energy in reaching out to him, I need to do that in a way that lands on him, in a way that he receives love, in a way that he feels tended to and cared for. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is it's not always about more in terms of quantity. It's about more intentionality in what you're doing. It's about asking your partner, what are the things that I can say and do that make you feel important, that make you feel loved, that make you feel attuned to? And then using the time that I'm already spending connecting, really tailoring to that, and vice versa. And then I do think, like, we also talked about, like, his day off is on Thursday, and that's a really busy day for me. And is there a way that I could block off an hour on my calendar and we could have lunch together? And that's where we could actually go into the deeper talks. That's where we can do the relationship work and talk about things like attachment styles and triggers and our mission statement as a family and how we're showing up for each other and what our dreams are and what intimacy means, like those deeper things that I'm craving. Why don't we set aside some precious time for that? And I'm willing to do that. I would love to do that. It's painful for me to block things off, but this is important. Again, if I'm going to prioritize it, then I should see it on my calendar. I know that sounds really unsexy, but it's the truth for me. So if there's the truth for me, it might be the truth for at least one of you that's listening too. The relationship is hard because it requires care. And a lot of times when we are in the dog days of parenting and working and all the things, it's hard to find the energy. That's real. What's also true is we have to prioritize it. And it's quality and intentionality over quantity. The fourth and final, just for today, this is, trust me, not all of them. These are just the four that are coming through hot today. The fourth reason why relationships and marriage is so hard is because, let me ask you this: what relationship did your parents model for you? Oof. This is not a diss on my parents or their relationship. It's not. However, they did things different back in their day, right? They did things different. We know more now than they knew then about things like attachment and connection and intimacy. And women more than ever are getting in touch with their bodies and saying, I have a desire and I have sensuality and sexuality and wanting to play with that. And we're being more open about our sexuality and we're being more open about like our attraction to different beings. Whereas there were more rigid rules for our parents growing up, right? It was like you got married young and you started a family young. And at least in my family, that was traditional. Dad went to work and mom stayed home with the kids, and dad drank the beer and mom looked after the kids. And like, I just, it, there was a lot of good to be learned. I will say, I will speak for myself. There was a lot of good to be learned from my parents' marriage because they are ride or die homies and they are still together and they've gone through some shit. And now they're like in this really beautiful place of just like being life partners and being accepting of each other and loving each other through it and like looking at the life and the family they've built. It's beautiful. But is there freaking romance? Is there passion? No. Sorry, there isn't. And so, what did your parents and their relationship model for you? Okay? We don't have a great example. And that's not everybody. Some people do have a great example. Some people watch their parents have a really beautiful marriage. Some people are also in denial of the issues their parents have. That's a big one. Oh, my parents had a perfect marriage. Meanwhile, mom's cheating on dad, or dad's cheating on mom, and mom's has an opioid addiction. Or it's okay for people to be in denial because we're all where we are on our journey. But a lot of times when people tell me, like, I didn't have any trauma growing up, it's, oh shit, we're in denial. Or my parents, everything was perfect in their marriage. I'm like, oh shit, the truth's gonna come out next Thanksgiving. I'm just saying, like, relationships were hard then, just like they're hard now. And our parents are humans, just like we're humans. So it's probable that you witnessed some dysfunction. And it's probable that you didn't witness your family doing like healthy conflict resolution and talking about feelings and having a family fucking mission statement and like seeing your parents do things together where both of them could be fully expressed as who they were, like those parts, maybe some were there and some were missing. And again, this is not to say their marriages were bad. This is not to diss on them. This is not none of that. I'm just saying the things that I'm trying to learn how to do as a wife today are different than what I grew up with. And I also had a different situation because my sister had special needs. And like my family dynamic was unique in and of itself because my parents were really young and my sister was sick. And so there was a lot of medical stuff and medical bills. And like that created all sorts of things in our family. And my parents just did the fucking best they could with what they had. And they actually did really well. And yet, I don't think my parents never had a date night. Never. Like I do not remember my parents having a date night. They may have had one every 10 years. Like I would remember going over to my godparents' house and hanging with my god sisters. Shout out to those homies if they're listening. Some of the best people on the freaking planet. So maybe mom and dad were at a date when we were at my godparents' house and we were all like choreographing dances together. But I don't have like memories of mom and dad like doing those things because literally they were working their butts off and raising children, taking care of children and doing all the things. So, and PS, their parents had even like less romantic relationships. So, what relationships were modeled for our parents, right? Holy shit, grandpa fought in 3 wars. That was the relationship. Grandpa was gone at war and came back. That was the relationship. So anyways, I'm feeling like our generation is like trying to heal all this generational trauma and also like becoming more aware of ourselves and our own stuff that we're bringing to relationship while trying to be in healthy relationships. And it's a lot to try to navigate and learn and manage. And we might not be doing it perfectly, but we're trying. And that's really beautiful. But one of the reasons why we struggle is like, I struggle expressing myself and communicating in really vulnerable settings with my partner. And that's on me and I'm working on it. But we never had vulnerable conversations growing up. We would just tried to make everything okay. And we just kept going as a family and we had a lot of fun and we had a lot of heart. But like mom and dad weren't having these deep, intimate conversations or conflict resolutions. So how do we do that? I don't know. It's new. So we're trying to figure it out as we go. Just to recap, as of right now, the 4 things that I'm discovering are making marriage hard at this stage and season of life is number one, because our partners are mirrors for us and the work that we need to do within ourselves. And ouch, that's a freaking doozy. That's hard. And two, we subconsciously chose them because we thought they would save our day. We thought they'd be the hero of our journey. When it turns out we're the hero of our own journey, and they're just here to aid us and guide us and love us through to wholeness. They're not going to provide the wholeness. What a freaking disappointing situation, right? And number 3, the relationship is a living, breathing organism that needs care. And who has the energy for that in this stage in life? Nobody. We're running on fumes. And what's also true is I'm going to work on prioritizing my marriage and my relationship the same way that in the past I have prioritized my children and their needs and my healing journey and my professional goals. I'm going to give my relationship more care. I think I lean on the things that I know I'm naturally good at. I'm naturally good at being a mom, so I can go balls to the wall on that. I'm naturally good in my career, so I can go balls to the wall on that. Relationships, ew, I'm not as naturally good. So, what a coincidence that I don't pour my time and energy into that. Now's the time, though. I've done enough healing. I've done enough work that I have a foundation. I know myself. I know my patterns. I know my wounding. And I feel like I can tell my partner, like, babe, I'm ready to go to that next level with you. Are you going to meet me there? And then the fourth and final is, what modeling did we have? What modeling did we have? And now that we're more in touch with our needs and our desires, and we're more open about those needs and those desires from a sensual and a sexual angle, it's hard to meet our partners halfway. It's hard for them to meet us where we're at because it just looks different. Like, we want more. I'm just going to say it. We want more out of our marriages than I think our parents felt like they could have. Like, we want this romance and this intimacy and this depth, and let's create a beautiful life, and let's go travel and see amazing things, and let's have deep conversations, and let's eat amazing food and have amazing sex on the beach. Like, maybe our moms wanted that, but I don't think they felt like they were going to get it with our dads. No offense, dad. So, anyways, we weren't always modeled, and that might not be true for all of us. I'm speaking for myself here, but a lot of us we didn't see this romance that we so long for in our current relationship. We maybe didn't see from our parents or certainly our grandparents. So, what do we do? What the heck do we do? I think the first thing we need to do is just name it. When we name it, marriage is hard in this season, and we normalize that like we do everything on this podcast, it immediately takes a layer of shame and pressure off. If I can just say, at this stage, marriage is hard, then I'm no longer assigning meaning to that doesn't need to be there. So just because marriage is hard doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. Just because marriage is hard doesn't mean that I don't love my partner. Just because marriage is hard doesn't mean I have to get a divorce. Just because marriage is hard doesn't mean that we're a failure. Just because marriage is hard doesn't mean that I'm not lovable and my partner doesn't love me. Like, it's okay for marriage to be hard. Let's just fucking sing it together. Marriage is hard. There's nothing wrong with you. When we can remove the pressure and remove the shame and remove the meaning that we've given that, now we can face the real thing. Now we can spend energy on the meat and potato here. And so then I think you got to talk about it. So this is the stage that I'm in right now. So let's talk about it with our partner. Hey, babe, I don't know about you, but marriage is hard. Hey, babe, I feel like some of my needs are not getting met. And I'm sure if I feel that way, I'm sure you feel that way. Let's spend more time together. Let's start having some different conversations. Let's see if we can meet each other halfway. So I'm not going to point the finger and blame. I'm going to talk about what's happening here, which is this is hard. And I want to feel more connected to you. So when we can name it and we can normalize it, then we can express it. But we've got to express it in a non accusatory, non critical way where it's more just, gosh, we've done a lot as a couple. And now I'm wondering if we can prioritize our relationship. I miss you. I want to feel more connected to you. I want to go deeper with you. I've been saying this to my partner, I want to really know you. I want to really know you. I know that I know you because I've been around you for 23 years, but I want to really know you. I want to know why that Chloe is 6. Your anxiety has gone higher. What age were you when your sister got sick? Or what was it like? There was a story he was just telling me the other day that I'm like, baby, I've never even heard this story before. I want to hear all your stories. I want to see you at all your stages of development in my mind's eye. I want to know who you were as little Tony and adolescent Tony and teenage Tony and high school Tony and drop out of college Tony, or just wait to go to college Tony, and then deciding to come to Colorado Tony, and like how you felt when you met me and the fact that I was a mom. Like, how did you really feel about that? And how did you really feel about my 1-bedroom ghetto ass apartment? Like, all of these things, right? I really want to know you. And I also really want to be seen by you. I want you to be curious about me and the woman that's sitting across from you now, because she's different than she was just 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And if there's an effort there, if there's a desire there to know me and a curiosity and an interest, man, there's so much we could play with there. Marriage is hard, but it doesn't mean that we're a failure. And marriage is hard, but it doesn't mean that I love you. We check in with each other like, you're still in this, right? All in. It's like, hell yeah, hell yeah. Okay. Like you're not like, if our needs aren't met, what's the place you go to in your mind? So talk about the hard things and make sure you're regulated in your nervous system when you do it. And if you get dysregulated because you're talking about the hard things, have a code word for walking away, like flooded. Flooded means I need to step away and breathe and regulate my nervous system and get my rational thinking brain back online. That's my tip. I'm not going to give you 47 things to do in your relationship right now because I'm not doing 47 things in my relationship right now. And like I said, I'm not a relationship expert and my marriage is not perfect. And what's also true is my marriage has not been the number one priority in my life, and I'm owning it and I'm facing why I allowed it to be and what I've created there, and I am learning about that and I'm trying on new things and I am bringing my partner along on the journey instead of doing it all by myself and then getting annoyed that he's not on the boat with me. And it turns out when I let my guard down and I let my walls down and I vulnerably disclose this to my partner, guess what he does? He shows up fully. He's present. He's there. He's calm. Let's do this, babe. I've been waiting for this moment, he says. I'm like, oh, please. You've not been waiting for this moment. And if you have, why didn't you initiate it? But that I digress. The point is we fail to connect because we assume the worst in our partner based on our attachment style and based on our relationship patterns. I would assume my partner isn't going to go deep with me and connect with me. So then I would just put up a wall and start withdrawing and be like, I'm on my own over here because my safe zone is on my own because I'm fiercely independent. And that's not always the best way to be in a relationship. Yes, we are whole on our own and we can be in harmony on such a deep and beautiful level with others. And we need others. We are hardwired for connection. Like being in close relationships is essential for our survival. And so, like, when you're craving and longing for connection, that's very real. But instead of pointing the finger and blaming others as to why I'm not getting my needs met and I'm craving this affection or I'm craving this intimacy, I'm going to instead look at myself in the mirror and go, how would I show up differently if I was embodying love and connection and intimacy? Because if I was coming to the relationship embodying love, connection, and intimacy, I wouldn't be raging on my husband. I wouldn't be pointing the finger and blaming him for everything. I wouldn't be making it all about me and my needs aren't met. I'd be curious about what of his needs aren't met, right? So on this journey, it starts with just naming the hard thing and then looking in the mirror and starting to take responsibility and then bringing that interest, that thought, that intention to the relationship and communicating it to your partner in an open and loving way, and then letting them meet you and hold that and hold you. And I think you'd be surprised at what that can unlock in terms of starting to rebuild the intimacy and the connection and all the things. So that's the tip, is talk about it. Talk about that it's hard. Talk about that the marriage is suffering without blaming a person. Talk about how you're going to be looking at yourself and what you can do to bring more love into the relationship. Talk about the fact that you want to show up for your partner. Now, none of this applies if you're in an abusive relationship. I do want to I want to make that known. If you're in a toxic and abusive relationship, none of this applies. Okay? None of this applies. This is applying because I'm not in a toxic or an abusive relationship. So that's important that I mention that. All right, my loves. Hey, mama, if you made it to the end of this episode, I just want to virtually high five you because you've said yes to the opportunity of taking better care of yourself. And that is so meaningful and so amazing. You have no idea the ripple of goodness that's to come. If you've been enjoying the show, if you've been finding it helpful, if you've laughed a little or learned a new technique, will you do me a favor? Will you make sure that you're following the show, that you've given us a 5-star rating and left a review? That will absolutely help us get this podcast into more heads and hearts of as many mamas as possible. Because when we heal the mother, we heal the world. Also, if there's a specific episode that you've loved, will you make sure to share it with a friend? Just send them the link or share it on social media and make sure you tag me at Brooke Jean Unperfected, because I absolutely love seeing that this is actually giving you the impact that you so desire and deserve. Thank you so much, mamas. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves and therefore each other.